There's a reason why the saying goes, ping is king. A matchmaking system should be simple, reliable, and fast. Anything else should run the risk of long queue times, unstable connections, and even worse, people that will abuse the system. Today I want to break down Jay Bowman's talking points on Arc Raiders' aggressive base matchmaking system, a topic I've wanted to discuss for a long time now. So, if you don't mind, let me land.
And as I stated in my previous video about aggressive base matchmaking, I said it, and a lot of people are angry at me, but I said that it's a bad thing that Embark has come out and been public about it. Now, is it a bad feature? I'm going to repeat myself again. Is it a bad feature for the game? No, I don't think so. For a game like Ark that's trying to be different from other extraction shooters, it's not bad. But them coming out and making it, public knowledge is probably the worst thing they could have done.
To his first point, I don't think they were in the wrong for ever coming out and admitting to aggressive base matchmaking being in the game. I commend their honesty in coming out and say it was in the game. However, they weren't ready for the consequences of telling the community that I was in the game. Whether that be either extreme, people taking advantage of it and wanting to be bad, or people trying to cater their experience to whatever they like or whatever they want. Now, to address something he said later, a matchmaking system should not be a feature in a game that allows it to stand out amongst other games in that genre. Because you can't say extraction shooters are this, then praise a feature or a system in a game that takes away said thing that makes an extraction shooter an extraction shooter. If extraction shooters are truly random, then anything that he lists and the later things when he talks about aggressive base matchmaking should matter or be considered when it comes to finding a lobby. That also includes the player party sides. None of that matters. Truly random. Now, considering how he feels about the matchmaking system, I have a few questions I want to ask, but I'm going to let this next clip ride first.
Day. It doesn't matter what Embark says about aggressive base matchmaking, or if they're going to switch their opinion 50,000 times on saying if it's in the game or not in the game. I think we all know that it is some form of aggressive base matchmaking within Arc Raiders. It might not be heavy, but there's multiple different factors. I think your level takes, play. The gear that you bring in takes play. How aggressive you are takes play. A lot of these things will dictate what type of lobby you are put in. I've recognized this.
Hearing that he recognizes that, how is this no different than the systems that are in Call of Duty? If you felt it in that game, and you feel it in this game, and they confirmed it to be in Arc Raiders, does it not confirm your suspicions for Call of Duty? With all the things he listed, levels, weapon, gear, your aggression, behavior, engagement, whichever words you want to use to swap it out with, why is it okay here in Arc Raiders but not in Call of Duty? If it's not about player retention. Let's continue.
But again, like I said, making this information public, it takes away from that tension, the tension of never knowing what is going to be presented to you, what type of player is going to be in your lobby, who you're going to deal with. Because when you PvE so much and you get all those friendly lobbies, you just kind of run in there. It's happened to me many of times. When I get into PvE matchmaking, I know for a fact I can just charge out. I don't even need to have my gun out or anything like that. Everything can be tucked away. I can charge into buildings. I can be as loud as I possibly want. I mean, sometimes I don't even have to turn on my mic. I can just keep it off and just do my own thing. And people will walk in and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they just go about their business. All the tension and fear of Arc Raiders goes out the window, and it turns into just simply a looting simulator. And like I said, that takes away from a lot of the vibes. Extraction shooters thrive off of the unknown, off of never knowing what's going to happen, who's around you, who's looking at you when you have no clue.
And to the point he just made, I think that's a great example of why I think Arc Raiders isn't an extraction shooter in the essence of what makes an extraction shooter an extraction shooter. If anything, it's the Fortnite of extraction shooters, and it doesn't sound like a bad thing, but me personally, I would consider it a bad thing, at least for this genre of extraction shooters. This genre specifically. However, this did more harm to Arc Raiders than if anything, because Arc Raiders could have been something else and way better, way more popular and profitable than what it is now if it would have just stayed course on what it was. A PvE game, and just because they had fun in the studio killing each other, that's totally fine. You guys could have definitely added PvP elements to this game, not shifted into an extraction shooter. I really do think that this game would have been way better as a looter shooter down to its core and had a PvP area or zone or dedicated map with way more difficult art to make it a little bit more challenging for the PvP players to engage or at least incentivize PvE behaviors. And I think if they would have done it this way and still had aggressive based matchmaking, it wouldn't even have mattered. You wouldn't even have felt it as much. Before I say my piece and get out of here, I'm gonna let them land one more time.
To a lot of players. Now that individuals know that aggressive based matchmaking is in the game, they want to exploit it. Like I said earlier, they want to get what they want to play. So if they only want to play PvE, they're going to exploit it in such a way. If they only want to play PvP, they're going to exploit it in such a way. And what this does is it forms, again, false expectations for this overall system. But with people thinking that aggressive-based matchmaking is the biggest key factor of this overall title, when something doesn't go their way, they feel a sense of, again, they just feel betrayed. But my question, once again, is why is Embar claiming aggressive-based matchmaking isn't a thing after they already stated it is an element that is taken into consideration, with what they were previously saying about the matchmaking? I'm going to tell you right here, right now, I guarantee that they are seeing exactly the damage that it's doing to the community between, again, reverse boosting, trying to force their type of lobbies, the act of betrayal and people getting pissed off at the devs and leaving the game because they think that it's not, they think it's something that the game actually is not, and when it doesn't turn out the way they want, they get pissed off. They're trying to bring back that sense of randomness, that fear that you felt day one. And what better way to do this than saying that aggressive-based matchmaking isn't real? Trying to get people to reconsider that this is not a thing and that basically every single game is going to be random when it comes down to the aggression level of the players that you're going up against.
Now, just before you said you liked the system and thought it was a good thing for it being in the game because it set it apart from other extraction shooters.
And is it a bad feature for the game? No, I don't think so. For a game like Ark that's trying to be different from other extraction shooters, it's not bad.
Based on your perspective, would that make it a key factor in the game as a selling point? So I'm a little confused on why you are mad at the community for being at least a little betrayed in the idea that we were sold that we had a choice, then told that we had a matchmaking system that catered to that experience based on how we played. So I don't think it's fair to get mad at the community, at least at that part of what we're talking about here. But if you listen to what he said later on and the questions that I asked you, on top of the fact that if it's not about player retention, then why is the system in the game? I don't understand. Arc Raiders never sold fear like a traditional extraction shooter. That's not what Arc Raiders sells. It doesn't sell fear, mystery, or uncertainty. I don't know where you find that in the game besides fighting the art. Arc Raiders sells the same thing Call of Duty does. You lose long enough to want to win again, and you win long enough to accept losing.